A fast clip by COWTHERN. Chapter 1. Mario and I got home from our set 4 hours ago at the Blue Room. 3 roars rang out from one of the apartments, and they weren't from MGM's Lion. We were halfway across the first floor when the gunshots were fired, so it was too late to leave the building or make it to the second floor before the shooter saw us. An eerie silence descended upon the pink hallway that made the hair stand up on my kitchen and arms. I knocked and banged on the doors of the hallway's right side, calling out, "Help! Help! Please let us in!" Replies came back through the locked doors. "Get lost. Leave us alone. Get away from here!" Mario knocked and pounded on the doors of the hallway's left side, but no one answered or said anything. He grabbed my hand, and we sprinted over the oak hardwood floor toward the crawl space, causing my feet to protest inside my heels. After diving into the crawl space beneath the stairway, I kneeled behind Mario, clasping my arms around his waist. I swear our breaths were having a conversation and our hearts pounded as loudly as the conga on the recording of Cubana Bay, Cubana Bop, while we peered through the small diamond holes of the lattice, waiting for a door to open. I hated the dust was staining my silk wide-leg sailor pants. I was sure Mario's beige pants were filthy, and his brown and white Oxfords were scuffed. To my horror, the door that flung open was Tanina's apartment. She was my best friend. Someone wearing a pair of dark gray chalk-striped pants and black wingtip shoes ran out the door and suddenly stopped. Their large black gloved hands scooped a gardenia off the floor. I was wearing one behind my right ear. I checked, and the flower was gone. It was my gardenia in the gloved hand. When the shooter turned to face the crawl space, I thought Mario and I were goners. But the gunman threw the gardenia on the floor, raced out the lobby door, and the sound of his footsteps hitting the stairs echoed into the building. "Let's go," Mario said, helping me out the crawl space, and at the same time, heavy-set Charlie, the super, wearing his overalls and a white T-shirt, confronted us. "Y'all better get, cops coming," Charlie warned. There was no way I was leaving without checking on Nina. I bolted away from Mario towards her apartment, and of course Mario and Charlie chased after me. As soon as I entered the apartment, I saw that the drawers of the mahogany secretary desk were wide open, and that her mail, stationery, and magazines, along with her chemistry, history, psychology, and art books, were scattered all over the floor. Also, the 2 Queen Anne chairs were lying on their hooped backs with their cabriole legs sticking in the air. "Caramel, get out of here!" A deep frown creased Charlie's dark brown face, underscoring his anger. When Mario grasped my hand, I wrenched it from his and rushed into the dining room, followed closely by Mario and Charlie. I saw the body of a man lying face down in a pool of blood. I'd never seen anyone shot to death. I screamed like all get out. Fortunately, Mario got me out of Nina's place and up to our apartment while I was boo-hooing thinking about her. I figured Charlie must have snitched on us when the heat knocked. Then and again, maybe he didn't. I glimpsed a few doors cracked when Mario and I left Nina's place. I gathered from the police mumbo-jumbo that Mario and I were persons of interest. We were driven to the 28th precinct, questioned separately, and then released. The NYPD homicide detective Paul Yates remained mum about the identity of the dead man in Nina's apartment. From the questioning, I believed he thought Nina was involved in the man's murder. As the patrol car sped away from the curb to take us home, I glanced back at the 28th precinct. It was 5 stories high and wedged between 2 apartment buildings. The entrance had a pyramid facade that hung over a scroll, underneath which was a huge hollowed-out doorway. Iron lanterns with brackets flanked the left and right of the entrance, and wrought iron bars protected the wooden-cased, double-paned doors, as well as the bay windows on the first floor. I hoped to never ever see that place again, and I couldn't wait to get home to wash the dust marks off my white silk pants. Resting my head against Mario's shoulder, I was grateful that not one nap on his large Scorpio head had been touched. He buried my hands between both of his. Over the course of 33 years, his hands picked cotton, hammered nails into wood, prepared meals on cruise ships traveling to Hawaii, fought in World War II, pressed the keys on a saxophone, threw karate chops and punches, and made me tremble. I loved him way too much for my own good.
A barrel of a man, Lieutenant Sean O'Leary, the commanding officer of the 28th Precinct Detective Squad in Harlem, walked over to Detective Yates' desk in the noisy and cigarette smoke-filled detective squad room, which was in dire need of a paint job. "Yates, what do you think?" "Mario and Caramel Jenkins don't know nothing about that murder," responded Detective Paul Yates. A tan chameleon with blue eyes who kept his head shaved to conceal his naps, reached for a pack of cigarettes in his white shirt pocket. "Okay, they've identified the body. It's Lamont Sanders. He was married to Paris Sanders, the richest colored woman in New York." "Get a load of that!" As O'Leary snickered, his gut shook up and down. What we don't know is why Lamont was at the girl's apartment. Detective Hank Murphy, a husky fellow whose desk was close to Yates, threw in she could lured him over there. Okay, it's safe to say Lamont and Nina knew each other. Before O'Leary's thin, pale pink lips could close, he spoke again. Lamont's wife has dough. He could have been killed in a botched kidnapping. I don't believe that. His wife is in the hospital comatose, and her family disliked him. Who was going to pay Lamont's ransom? Detective Yates inquired, taking out a cigarette from the cigarette pack. Maybe the colored girl's boyfriend killed Lamont in a jealous rage, remarked Detective Murphy, drumming a pencil on his desk. Nina Stone's bedroom was turned upside down, and so was her living room, Detective Yates replied. The killer was looking for something. Yates, put some heat on the pool halls and juke joints, maybe we'll come up with the murder weapon. Lieutenant O'Leary stated before heading back to his office. That colored girl should be home by now. She probably left town, Detective Yates replied, lighting his cigarette with a match. Check out her place, and if she's not there, put out an APB for her arrest, O'Leary ordered. Also drop by the morgue to check if that missing colored girl is on ice. I'm tired of the coloreds squawking about her. Nina's mouth and lips felt as dry as tree bark after not having water for a long time, and her lips hurt from the fabric being pushed so firmly against them. The rope that was tied around and pressed against her legs caused them to burn, while a throbbing, unrelenting pain shot through her arms tied behind her back with a rope. A sea of drowsiness enveloped her, and she was clueless as to how many hours had passed since her captivity. However, she knew her Manchu-collared dress was drenched in urine. In the darkened room, she observed a sliver of light running along the bottom of the closed door, but it was too scant to provide any information about her surroundings. The squeaking of the doorknob turning interrupted her thoughts. She quickly closed her eyes, relaxed her shoulders and limbs, and strove to control her breathing. Soon, a dazzling flood of light tormented her closed eyelids as someone grabbed at her ankles and dragged her body out of the enclosed space.
Mario shook me awake, jolting me from my dream about wolves, and shoved a newspaper in my face. Look, Nina's mug is on the front page along with Paris Sanders and Lamont Sanders. That dead guy in Nina's flat was Paris's husband, Lamont. What? I threw off the white bed sheet and pink bedspread adorned with caterpillar-like threaded flowers, sat up in the bed, and pulled the newspaper from Mario's hand. Mario continued. There's an APB out for Nina's arrest, and Charlie told me that she hadn't returned home. When was that? I asked. A couple of hours ago. This isn't making any sense, I said, shaking my head. Nina must be hurt somewhere. This is Harlem, and this mess involves colored folks, Mario replied, giving me a glance that said, expect the unexpected. I noticed he was dressed in a white short-sleeved shirt, navy blue slacks, and a pair of brown shoes. A bit dressy for a rehearsal, in my opinion. So I asked, where are you going? Over to Bill's, Mario replied. I believed Mario was lying about going over to Bill's, however. I was distracted by the phone ringing. He answered the phone and frowned. It's Abigail. Mario left the room after handing me the phone. It was 11 a.m. when I looked at the clock. On Friday mornings, I never slept that late. After running for my life and returning from the police station, I must have been exhausted. Mama, what's wrong? Charlie called and told us the police took you and Mario down to the station, girlie. Are you okay? Asked Abigail. Yes, I smiled, remembering it wasn't until the first grade that I realized my first name was Caramel and not Girlie, my mother's nickname for me. The police are saying Nina was fooling around with Paris' husband, Abigail advised. That's a lie, I replied. Poor Paris is fighting for her life on account of that bum, Lamont, said Abigail. After Paris gets well, I'm sure she'll set the record straight, I stated. You refuse to see the truth. Abigail cleared her throat before adding, especially about Mario, because Mario was divorced and had cheated on his first wife. Mama didn't like or trust him. She felt I'd fallen under the spell of his boogie-woogie, curly eyelashes, hazel eyes, and baritone voice, and that I disregarded his actions. I knew a lot of women flirted with him, and he loved the attention, which irritated me sometimes. But I didn't think he took it any further than that. Despite Mama's advice, I married him. I swear the woman won't let up on Mario. What do you mean by that? I inquired, lowering my voice. Girlie, love can run hot and turn cold real fast. I've seen that happen, I responded. When a man is stiff as wood, he'll do anything for a woman, but when he's soft as bread, a woman can't get $1, remarked Abigail. I sighed. Mama, stop talking in circles. Get to the meat and potatoes. Girlie, do you know how much money Mario has? I spied Mario's shadow across the floor in front of the bedroom's door frame. No, I said. Have you ever seen his bank statements? Asked Abigail. No. Have you ever seen any of the contracts he signed off on? No. Girlie, I think I've said enough, Humph. Mama, I have to run. I need to wash up. Bye, and keep me posted on Nina. Sure. I placed the receiver in its cradle and observed Mario's shadow disappear from the bedroom's doorway. After bathing, I slapped on some deodorant, lotion, and cologne, combed my hair, then brushed my teeth. I threw on my housecoat, and as I walked out of the bathroom, I bumped into Mario. I thought he'd left the house. What did Abigail want? He asked, on edge with an attitude that I didn't like. She was just checking on us. Seems like you guys were talking about something else. Mario's hazel eyes narrowed. She thinks Nina convinced Lamont to push Paris to the stairs. It seems to me it was more than that. I gazed upside Mario's head. Were you listening in on my phone call? Yeah, Abigail's always calling here with lots of mess. Mario's jaws tightened. I wish you, Mama, and Pops would stop fighting. Abigail and Pops are the ones that keep raising sand with me, Mario protested. For no reason at all. I looked at him as if he'd lost his mind. They're not wrapped too tight, and you know it. The honking of a car's horn that sounded a lot like Bill's interrupted our conversation. Mario grabbed his saxophone case and the satchel containing his musical arrangements. The police is looking for Nina's black ass. Don't go looking for her. I am. Caramel, you heard what I said. If one of your homeboys was missing and in trouble, you'd turn Harlem upside down, I replied. Be ready by 7:30 p.m. Mario left, slamming the door. I gobbled down a light breakfast of toast, grits, a scrambled egg, and coffee. Threw on one of my pink summer dresses, a pair of pink espadrilles, and got my purse. As I left the apartment to search for Nina, I thought about my dream. I was a gray wolf running through the snow, and I spotted a beaver scurrying over some twigs. I bounded across the white mush after it. However, the beaver ran into a hole. As I pawed at the hole's opening, I began to smell the scent of a two-legged animal. I lifted my head and howled, and the wolves from my pack howled too. Our mournful cries drifted over the Douglas fir trees. Who was the two-legged animal? I wondered. I also thought about what Mama said about Mario. When it came to money, he was very secretive. And I discovered a white shirt of his tucked away in the corner of the closet. It was marked with lipstick in a shade that wasn't mine. The shirt has since disappeared. I hated to admit it, but Mama was right about a few things.